I'm here with Joe Rotella, and Joe is going to teach us how to make this really cute bee-inspired screen-printed project on metal.
On metal, it's so cool too, and it's layered, but registration didn't really matter because I don't care where the bee goes. Let me show you how.
Fantastic.
I started by printing out a sheet of what I was going to use on my project, and I'm really into bugs right now. So I've got a bee and a beetle and a moth and stuff, and this was a special paper that came in a kit because screen printing to me was kind of intimidating. I thought, I don't have a clue how to do this. But when you have a kit, everything I needed was in it. It was pretty much a breeze. So I've got my thing ready, and I want to remember what side I printed on. So I've got it all laid out, and I put a little Post-it note
Because
there.
obviously, because this is clear, it could be difficult to remember which side.
Correct.
Yes.
I've got my light set up with a UV bulb, and I put a piece of cardboard here so it minimizes the reflection off the base. And then this packet has a photosensitive film in it that basically is a sandwich. There's an emulsion layer on the top, and that's kind of a little bit soft or squishy. Then there is a mesh layer. Mm-hmm. It's a little tricky to get out of the packet.
Harder to get out of the package. There you go.
There you
But
go.
you want to keep all of that obviously out of light.
Right, but now don't panic about the length of time because when I first did this, I thought, oh God, I have to get it back in the packet right away. You don't have to do that. So you have time. Now I don't want to print my whole sheet, and it's okay, you can cut this. So I'm just going to use a trimmer and cut a piece just big enough
To customize it to exactly the size you want. Now, Joe, I know that you said that you have the UV light and the cardboard and all that stuff. So did you have to go and buy all those different parts?
Everything was in the kit.
Which
So
makes
cool.
it super easy.
So I've got my cardboard down to minimize reflection. Then I'm going to put down my emulsion layer, the soft side up, the shiny side down. Then I'm going to put my bee, and you really want to put the printed side down as close as you can to that emulsion layer. So I flipped it over. That means if we're doing text, you're going to want to mirror image the text.
And mirror imaging just means that you're printing it basically backwards.
And then I've got a plastic sheet, and I can use this to really press everything tight. You're trying to get that printout as tight as you can against the emulsion layer.
Because wherever it's black, right, that's what's going to burn through the screen.
Exactly. So now we're going to turn it on, and this was done on an inkjet, so we're going to leave the light on for 35 seconds. So I've got a timer ready, and I'm just going to flip it on.
There you go.
And start my timer.
Okay.
And then over here I have a basin of water ready to go to wash it. Typically I would do it in a sink with running warm water, and even if you have a spray nozzle, that's great, but I don't have that in my studio, so a basin with water is great.
Now let's look at your finished project just really quickly so that we can talk about that. Now you mentioned this is layered, and what you're telling me is each color was done in a separate layer.
Yeah, and you can see the stencils right over there, or
So I was going to say, I can say that the Stay Humble and the Kind are right here, and that these were done obviously mirror image because you wanted that as close as possible.
Absolutely. So I'm all done here, and let's get rid of my timer, turn off the light,
and pull out that screen. Now, the thing that always amazes me about this process is it doesn't look like you did anything.
You know, and I have to be honest, the first time I did it, I thought, I didn't do this right.
Right.
This isn't going to work. So you want to put it on the clipboard to give it some support with the emulsion or the soft side up. We're going to put it in the water bath. And we have a little fingernail brush here.
But obviously, if you had a sprayer, you wouldn't need to do that. Mm-hmm. You could also use a paintbrush, your fingers, just something to gently, a sponge maybe, to help scrub at it. And I can already see that bee starting to come up, which is pretty cool. I do, I can see it starting to come out. So you'd want it to be totally 100% clear.
Absolutely.
And I know that we have one here that is already 100% clear. And what I mean by that is I can see my hand through every single part of it. It doesn't seem tinted blue at all.
And what I did too on the back, on that clear layer, is I wrote the word back. Because we're always going to want to put this protective sheet back on. There's a sticky side on the other side of this mesh.
Okay.
And we always want to protect that. So this way we always know the sticky side goes here. We would know if it had words, the words should be facing the right way.
And you've already cured this one.
Cured, ready to go.
Cool.
And you can help put it on. Now we're putting it on. I love that this is a little transparent because I can see exactly where I want my bee. If I don't want that bee straight, I can see exactly what I'm doing.
This totally reminds me of a stencil, but it's kind of different at the same time.
You know, we could use a vinyl stencil, but you can only use that one time, then you throw it away. We could do a hard plastic stencil, but any interior pieces like his eyes and things would fall out.
Yeah, it's
'Cause you
almost
need
like
little bridges and all
stamping in a
this.
way, because you can get all those little pieces. Now, you told me that what we're gonna do, right, is just use some acrylic paint. Any tips about the kind of paint that we use?
Do a test first, because some paints, metallics, their particles are actually too big to go through. There's a very, very fine mesh here. It's almost like microscopic. I even used a magnifying glass because I had to see it, because I'm so curious. I couldn't help it. But a thicker body paint or ink, it has to be water-based.
Because you also wanted to get all those tiny details like the hairs on the legs
Yep.
and the tiny little skinny wings, so you want it to be something that will be able to pick up that detail.
And if you're worried that it's too close to the edge, because I'm really conservative when I cut this, just put some painter's tape or masking tape.
Oh, perfect.
It gives you a little bit more space.
Right on the edge.
We can work on metal, glass, ceramic, wood, any flat surface, but then even fabric like canvas, which is kind of a little bit bumpy.
I thought it was totally cool when you told me that we could screen print onto ceramic. So you don't need that much paint, right? Do you think that's enough?
No, that's a lot of paint. You're
Okay,
good.
okay.
And you're using the scraper because you're
Yeah.
a pro. You've screen printed a lot. I was a little nervous, so I used the little spongy brush and just sponged it through the screen. You want to work a little bit fast because you don't want this paint to dry permanently on
I was going to
that
say, and
mesh.
I apparently am very
I thought
wasteful.
you had too much
very
paint, but
wasteful
no.
with the paint, so I'm going to put out even more. And that's the nice thing, which is it's a very forgiving process, right? Where you can
And you can
go
almost
ahead and
hear
do
it
it.
scrape, which I was afraid would hurt it,
can.
but it doesn't.
So I'm just going to toss this into the bin so it doesn't dry on
Sure.
here. And let me carefully pull this up. And oh my gosh, Joe, it's so cool. That is absolutely the coolest. I think it is the pull-off moment that is my absolute favorite. I'm going to drop this into the bin here so that that
We
paint
can
doesn't
wash it.
harden in there. Because
And
you want to
there you
use the
go.
screen over and over again. And look at that, it's so cool. And when it dries, if we look back at the finished one, that is what it is going to look like. And I think that this is a process that is appropriate for people of all levels. You said you're a beginning screen printer. Even people who are experienced
Very
will kind of
beginning
enjoy it.
screen printer. But it was
But
so
you
easy.
had fun, didn't you?
I did, and when it first appears, it's like magic.
It is. Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks.
And we often mimic elements found in nature or use them as inspiration.